both our in-district and out-of-district special ed placement. So again, I'm just offering that up as a
David,
possibility.
I don't want to sound cavalier here, but how much work and effort has to go into saving $10,000? I mean, I'm not saying that $10,000 is a little bit of money, but in the scope of what we're talking about here, it is. And how much administrative effort has to go into that where maybe it's not worth the effort? I guess that's the only thing I would put forth.
I'm going to let Chris,
Chris?
if she's willing to.
I'm fairly confident about this particular situation, and I could say probably by your next school committee meeting, you could have the full support of this particular group of people. And we could report on that. These are not students who've been unilaterally placed.
So, the next non-staff position, and again, it comes in the form of a recommendation under another agenda item on tuition and fees, but I will be recommending an increase in the pre-kindergarten tuition, presently $275 a month. We'll recommend that it go to $300 a month. And that I believe also we are not at capacity in terms of our typically developing students. And I believe we can reach capacity. We have not increased, well, we'll get into that on the separate recommendation because it's another agenda item, but it's been several years, 3 years since we've increased that tuition. And so we're recommending that it increase $25 a month over the 10 months of the program. So that, we believe, would generate $35,000. Similarly, as a separate recommendation on another agenda item, will be the recommendation to increase the tuition for the full day kindergarten program, also $25 a month. It's presently at $400, and I would recommend that, $400, and I would recommend that it be increased to $425 a month. This tuition has also remained stable for, this is the third year, or will be the third year. And so that would generate, again, based on projecting out enrollments, 17,500. And again, I want to thank the principals and Carl for doing, and Christine for doing the research that's necessary on that. I will say that the full day kindergarten tuition, even at the $400 a month, is near the top, if not the top, of many surrounding communities where tuition for full day kindergarten is being paid. And also understand that the tuition for the full day kindergarten accounts financially for the difference in time, hours on a day-to-day basis to provide staffing and other expenses for that program, as well as just the basic use. I mean, there are other staffings other than the teacher. We have additional time for nurses and administration and on and on. So that's a recommendation. The next recommendation that's a non-staff is to eliminate from the level services budget what's called small capital requests. And the small capital requests, by eliminating that, which these requests are primarily textbooks, new textbooks, not the replacements of if you need 10 more copies of a book. Those are really put within the individual principal's budget. This is if we're going to adopt a new textbook series, that's what goes in here.
David, is there anything we're in the middle of right now where we would continue to adopt and complete the adoption?
No.
So the language arts, whatever we put in the elementary school, that's all
already
done.
Right.
And then, so there's nothing,
No.
okay.
This would eliminate the 8th grade purchase of the language arts textbooks and the level 3 purchase of the Spanish textbooks, which are in the middle of.
So this is basically a deferral of that cost.
Essentially,
Well,
till-
that's
right.
another way of saying it.
Till a later date.
Right, till a later date. So that would be $70,000. Another non-staffing reduction would be to ask the principals to go back to their expense budgets and decrease them by 5% from the current level. So basic supplies. And that would generate $56,000. Another, I suppose it's staffing, non-staffing, but I'm gonna call it non-staffing, and that's overtime, which is for custodians during the summer months. During the summer months, if you were to visit any one of our buildings, you know that there are programs going on in every building, from the town's recreation to private special education programs that we lease out we achieve revenue on, to summer camps and so forth. We do that because we think it's important for the community to have access to our buildings. It does generate a little bit of income, but it also provides services to many people. However, our custodial staff has to work around that, and we need to. Our buildings are in great condition because our custodial staff works extraordinarily hard to strip down the classrooms, clean everything, paint, wax floors, and to put everything back. And to do that magically overnight between when school closes and when school opens, in the middle of virtually every building, having someone using classrooms and gyms and cafeterias and restrooms. And so what we're recommending here is that other than the high school, the Batchelder, Little, Hood School, and the middle school, we would close to outside programs the last 2 weeks of August to give our custodial staff time to get in there and do the work that they have to do. So that may be somewhat of a hardship on some of these other programs. We don't think it's a major hardship, but it allows us to do the work that has to be done. And so this would cut overtime by $7,500, because what ends up happening is, because that work can't be done, that we're bringing in, combined with vacations, summer vacation time, to bring in our custodial staff on weekends to do the work that could be done during the week. So that would generate $7,500. Another non-staff reduction, again, it will be part of a separate agenda item, is to look at, again, the bus fees for non-mandatory buses, which would be for grade 7 up, and for any child who lives under 2 miles in grade K to 6. We would levy a $50 late fee for bus fees that are not paid, that are paid after August 15th. School opens in several weeks, and oftentimes at that point, we still do not have a handle on the hundreds of students who will be riding buses. And so what we're saying is that we would levy a late fee. We're trying to get a handle on that before August 15th so that we can plan appropriately. And that would, based on the number of bus fees that are paid after August 15th, that would generate $10,000. And the last one in this non-staff list would be to, and again, it's not presented tonight as a separate agenda item. So it's not going to be considered tonight. We're going to talk about the research that went into this. And that would be if we made athletics fully dependent on fees, student fees, and there are different models that can be done, either raising all of the fees to an extraordinarily high level or assessing a fee based on per sport usage. And I've included the data that was obtained from Carl and the athletic director are on that, but that would generate $200,000, or better said, it would require $200,000 to complete the offset of athletics.
So those are all the non-staff related. I just wanted to ask Carl a question. Of all of these that are added here, there's about another 320,000 that'll be put on the backs of parents who have kids in the schools. How much are we already charging parents for athletics, busing, extracurricular, pre-K tuition, and K tuition? What's the total of those? Is it 700,000? Is it? Can you give me a round number on all those?
Yeah,
We know it's about 200,000 for athletics right now, right?
yes.
Fees. 200,000. Busing is.
Busing would be in the vicinity of $250,000 to $300,000.
Okay. And what about extracurricular? Is that like 60,000 or? You think?
Yeah, I think closer to 40,000
Okay.
for extracurricular.
I guess I could even stop there. So we're talking that we're about at $820,000. We're at the point where the town's not supporting education anymore. We're at $820,000 that we say, oh, you got a kid in school? You gotta pay $3,000 more, I'm sorry. Town can't afford it. This is, I know we have to do this, this is sheer lunacy. It's the only way to describe it. We're getting close to, when you add K tuition in there, and pre-K tuition, I'm sure we're gonna be well over $1 million that's out of the budget that parents have to pay, just so they can afford, just so they can send their kids to public schools. Calling it a public school is becoming a farce. I'm sorry, and David, I'm not criticizing you, I'm just looking at this, well, maybe I set off the alarm here. But I just can't, I can't even come to grips with how much money we're asking parents to shell out. And okay, I understand, a $50 late fee if you don't pay your bus fee on time. We shouldn't even have bus fees. I guess that's, we're now putting late fees on fees that we shouldn't be charging. And then we're gonna say, you wanna play football? It's only $1,200, it's only $1,000. Or hockey? $1,200, $1,300. I'm sorry. I just can't come to grips with how much money we're talking about now. I don't know if anybody else, it's.
Well, the only thing I comment on is, obviously, we're doing this for a reason. The reason is
Right.
that the money's not available. At least it's not readily available.
Right, but
So it's obviously.
is it more available from private
Well,
individuals? I guess that's what I'm asking.
I guess what I'm saying is, all the things that you mentioned fees for are all things that we not required to provide.
Correct.
And I always have been of the opinion, I would like to give the parents the option, whether it's busing or athletics, rather than eliminate the cost to the budget, I would like to give them the option. And if parents are willing to pay, and not wanting to pay, but willing to pay for busing or for athletics or for extracurricular activities, I think we need to present that to them. Because otherwise, the option that we have is to eliminate them. And to me, that's not what I want to do.
No, but don't you remember the good old days when all this stuff
I
came in the tax rate?
Listen,
and,
I'm not saying it's right, I'm saying it's just the affordability of it. There are certain things we have to do, and there are certain things that are options that we don't have to do. And I just want to provide people with the option of having these things available.
I agree there are options, but they used to be part of a well-rounded education
I
that
know.
was covered under the tax rate that everybody was assessed and paid. Cliff?
Yeah, we are, as David has said, we're at the 16, or that's based on 07.
2007, right.
In 08, we
Right.
know we had a lower number
Right.
than that. So we're gonna be even lower than the 16 from the bottom of the state on what we spend per pupil. We happen to be something around number 100 in what the state says we ought to be spending on students based on the foundation budget. I've looked up some other numbers, and we're about number 48 from the top on our average tax bill. So we're raising a lot of money in town, and we're not spending it on schools. And there's something wrong with that. And we need to change that formula that we're using so that we turn that thing